Okay. Thanks for everyone sharing your birthday and your ages, but now we're done with that. No more typing in the chat unless you have a question. So we have 2 reading RTIs today. So we're going to read during this RTI, and then Mrs. Kneifel lied to you all because I'm just not an awesome person, I guess. I decided we are going to do one more ReadWorks because I looked at some of your guys' grades, and one more ReadWorks is going to help you. And it's on working dogs, so it's like about animals. So that's what you're going to do during the second reading RTI. Last ReadWorks for the year, and it's going to help out some of your guys' grade if you do a good job because some of your guys' ReadWorks grades are. So make sure you do your best, okay? Well, if you fail at it, then it's just not going to help, Hannah. So let's just try to do a good job. But for this one, it's going to be due Monday, but you're going to have the whole second reading RTI to do it. So we'll probably get it done today, Haley. And yes, this is going to be our last one, I promise, for real. Because I'm tired of grading them. Not really. They're not hard to grade. But yeah, so I'm just saying. I know I lied. I already said we were last one, but I decided it's going to help you, okay? It's going to help you. And this one's about dogs, so or about animals, so it'll be fine. Molly picked the subject. Thanks, Molly. Okay, but we are going to read a little bit right now. And we will finish this by the 19th, so if any of you guys still need a few more AR points, we will finish it by then. So we're on page 35, which is the plan. And remember, they just saw Old Faithful. And if you remember at the beginning of 34, Sal said it was surely one of like the worst and the best days of Graham and Graham's life. Well, we didn't hear the worst part yet, so obviously there's going to be something big happening, okay? I think this book is worth like 8 points or something, like maybe 7. It's either 7, 8, or 9. I don't know which one. So, 35, the plan. All day long, we ate up the road through Montana. Obviously, they're not actually eating the road. If you ate up the road, that means you just, kept on driving, drove right through it. It hadn't looked so far on the map, but it was all mountains. We started in the foothills of the Rockies as we left Yellowstone, and all day we climbed up and down. Sometimes the road snaked along the side of the cliff, and the only thing between us and a sharp drop was a piddly railing. Often, as we sailed around a bend, we came face to face with a camping trailer swinging wide body around the curve. These roads are a dinger, Gramps said. But he was like a little kid riding a hobby horse. Giddy up, let's get a move on, he said, encouraging the car up the hill. Yeah, he said as we swept down the other side. I felt as if I was torn in 2 pieces. Half of me was oogling the scenery, or ogling, I don't know how to say that word. I had to admit it was pretty, maybe even prettier than Bybanks, trees and rocks and mountains, rivers and flowers, deer and moose and rabbit. It was amazing country, an enormous country. But the other half of me was quivering pile of jelly. I could see other cars bursting through the railing and plunging down the cliff. I could see our car busting through the railing and plunging down the cliff. As we approached each curve, I could see us smashing right into a truck or a camper. Every time I saw a bus, I watched it sway. I watched its tires spin dangerously close to the road's edge. I watched it plunge on, eating up the road, defying those curves. Graham sat quietly with her hand folded on her lap. I thought she might sleep, especially after staying awake all night, but she didn't. She wanted to hear about PB, so all day long, as I took in the scenery and I imagined us in thousands of accidents prayed underneath it all, to any tree we would it all today, I wanted to finish it. She wants to finish the story of PB / Phoebe, whatever you want to call her. On the day after Mr. Berkway appeared at Phoebe's house and told us about Mrs. Cadaver, Phoebe and I put our plan in motion. We were going to track down Sergeant Bickle's son, and according to Phoebe, discover the whereabouts of Phoebe's mother. I wasn't positive that Sergeant Bickle's son was a lunatic, and I wasn't convinced he would lead us to Phoebe's mother. But enough of Phoebe's tales had been transplanted into my brain so that I was caught up in the plan. Like Phoebe, I was ready to take some action. That definitely happens with some of our friends. Phoebe is definitely one of those convincing people. Like, she projects her emotions onto Sal, and then Sal believes them too. Phoebe's just a convincing person. So Sal's like, yeah, you believe it, I believe it. Like, let's go. We could hardly sit still all day at school. Phoebe especially was fired up. She was worried, too. She was afraid we might not discover her mother alive, and I was beginning to share that fear. At school, everyone was still buzzing about the journal readings. Everyone wanted to know who had written about the murder. Alex avoided Mary Lou because of what she said about him being a pink jerk, and Mary Lou avoided Beth Ann because of what Beth Ann had written about chicken kisses. Megan and Christy taunted Beth Ann. Did you really tell Mary Lou that kisses taste like chicken? Did she really believe you? And they taunted me with, do you really kiss trees? Don't you know you're supposed to kiss boys? In English class, everyone badgered Mr. Berkway to finish reading the journal entry that he had began yesterday, the one about the corpse and the body, but Mr. Berkway did not read any more journals. Instead, he apologized for hurting people's feelings by reading their private thoughts aloud and sent us to the library. There, Ben trailed me. If I looked at the fiction section, he was right beside me. If I moved over to examining the magazines, he was flipping through one as well. Once, his face made contact with my shoulder. He was definitely trying to plant a kiss on me. I knew he was, but there was nothing I could do about it. I could not help it that whenever he aimed his mouth in my direction, my body was moving away. I needed a little warning. Once again, Ben and Sal, can never kiss. I don't know, why they just can't be in the same spot. Well, first off, I don't know why they're kissing in the library anyways. We shouldn't be kissing people at school. Totally besides the point. I tried remaining completely still for several consecutive minutes, and during those minutes, I detected Ben leaning slightly towards me several times. Each time, however, he drew back as if someone was controlling him by an invisible thread. Across the library, Beth Ann called, Sal, there's a spider. Oh, Sal, kill it! When the final bell rang, Phoebe and I were out of school like a shot. At Phoebe's house, we examined the telephone directory. We've got to hurry, Phoebe said, before Prudence or my father comes home. There were 6 Bickles listed in the directory. We took turns calling. So back in the day, you guys probably don't know this, but there used to be phone books. And in the phone, you guys might know, but in phone books, it literally is just a book of phone numbers. And some people, you didn't have to list your phone number in the phone book. I remember my parents never had our phone number in the phone book, but I remember when I was a kid and I needed to find my friend's phone number, I would go get the phone book and I would flip and find their parents' name, and I would call them on their home phone because that was before cell phones were super popular and stuff like that. So you guys missed the phone book life. Evan.
If someone was using the computer, you couldn't use the phone. It was either you were using the one or the other.
Yeah. So you guys missed, I will never forget having to look through people's phone numbers, flipping through the phone book. See, you guys missed that nostalgia, but that's okay. Anyway, so there's 6 different Bickles because, people have the same last names, even if they're not related, or they are related and they have the same last name. So they're trying to figure out which, they have to call all the Bickles. They don't know who's who. Each time we asked for Sergeant Bickle, the first 2 people said we must have a wrong number. The third number we dialed was busy. That was before call waiting. The 4th, no answer. The 5th answered by a crotchety woman who said, I don't know any sergeants. Oh, gosh. The 6th number was answered by an elderly man who must have been lonely because he talked on and on about once knowing a Sergeant Freeman in the war, but that was back in 1944, and he also knew a Sergeant Bones and a Sergeant Downey, but he did not know a Sergeant Bickle. What are we going to do? Phoebe wailed. Prudence will be home any minute, and we still don't know which is the right Bickle. The busy number was still busy. The previous unanswered one rang, and just as Phoebe was about to hang up, she heard a voice. Hello? She said. May I speak with Sergeant Bickle, please? There was a pause as she listened. He's still at work. Phoebe was jumping up and down. Thank you, she said, trying to make her voice serious. I'll call later. No message, thank you. Yes, she hung up the phone. Yes. She was hugging me half to death. You'll have to do phase 2 tonight. That night, while my father was at Margaret's, I phoned the Bickles. I prayed that Sergeant Bickle wouldn't answer, and I was prepared to disguise my voice in case he did. The phone rang and rang. I hung up. I rehearsed my voice for what I would say. I tried again. On the 7th ring, the phone answered. It was Sergeant Bickle. My name is Susan Longfellow, I said. I'm a friend of your son's. I was wondering if I might speak with him. I prayed and prayed that he only had one son. He isn't here, Sergeant Bickle said. Would you like to leave a message? Do you know when he'll be home? There was a pause. How did you say you knew my son? This made me nervous. How do I know your son? Well, that's a long story. Basically, the way I know him is, actually, this is a little bit embarrassing to admit. My hands are sweating so much that I could hardly hang onto the phone. The library, yes. I know him from the library, and he loaned me a book, but I've lost the book. Maybe you could explain this all to him, Sergeant Bickle said. Yes, maybe I should do that. I wonder why he gave you this phone number, he said. I wonder why he didn't give you his number at school. At school? Actually, the thing is, I think he did give me that number too, but I've lost it. Okay, she's pretending like she's losing everything. You sure do lots of things. You sure do lose a lot of things, he said. Would you like his number at school? Yes, I said. Or better yet, maybe you could give me his address and I'll just send him the book. I thought you said you lost the book. Actually, yes, but I'm hoping to find it, she said. I see. He said, just a minute. There was a muffled pause as he put his hand over the receiver and called, Honey, where's Mike's address? Mike, brilliant, a name. I felt like a chief inspector. I felt like I had discovered the most important clue in a criminal investigation of the century. To top it off, Sergeant Bickle gave me Mike's address. I was sorely tempted to end the conversation by informing Sergeant Bickle that his son was a potential lunatic, but I refrained. I thanked him and immediately phoned Phoebe. You're brilliant, she said. Tomorrow we'll nail Mike the lunatic. Snap. So intense. Okay. So they went through the phone book. They called all the Bickles. They found where Sergeant Bickle lived, and then they called, and then Sergeant Bickle answered. And guess what? Apparently, Sergeant Bickle's really trusting if he's just given his son's address over the phone, but whatever. Don't be giving people your address you don't actually know. That's not safe. 36, the visit. I'm telling you, this is about to get so good. Oh, my gosh. See, I've already read this, so I know when the good parts are coming. The visit. The next day, Saturday, when Phoebe and I reached the bus stop, Ben was standing there. Oh, crud, Phoebe muttered. Are you waiting for the bus? Are you going to Chanting Falls? Yep. To the university? Nope. Ben pushed his hair from his eyes. There's a hospital there. I'm going to see someone. So you're taking this bus, Phoebe said. Yes, Phoebe, I'm taking this bus. Do you mind? Of course Phoebe minds. Like, Phoebe and Sal are on a hunt to find the lunatic. And then coincidentally, the same bus they're going to, Ben is also there going on it. So, like, they're, like, thinking they're going to be caught. Or Ben's going to ask what they're doing. But Ben's going to visit someone in a hospital. Who? I don't know. The three of us sat on a long bench at the back of the bus. I was in between Phoebe and Ben, and his arm pressed up against mine. Phoebe said we were visiting an old friend at the university. Each time we rounded a curve, Ben leaned against me or I leaned against him. Sorry, he said. Sorry, I said. At Chanting Falls, we stood on the pavement as the bus roared off. The university's over there, Ben pointed down the road. See ya. And he walked off in the other direction. Oh, Lord, Phoebe said. Why did Ben have to be on the same bus? It made me very nervous. It made me nervous, too, but for a different reason. Every time I saw him now, my skin tickled and my brain buzzed, and my blood romped around as if it was percolating. Basically, Sal's got a crush on Ben, just like Ben has a crush on Sal. So now when she sees him, she's like, oh, snap, there's Ben, you know, where Phoebe's like, oh, my God, he's going to find out what we're doing. So totally different, nervous for different reasons. The address we found for Mike Bickle was a freshman dormitory. It was a 3-story brick building with hundreds of windows. Oh no, Phoebe wailed. I thought it might be a little house or something. Students were coming in and out of the building and walking across the lawn. Some were sitting on the grass or benches studying. In the lobby was a reception desk with a handsome young man standing behind it. You do it, Phoebe said. I just can't. We stood out like pickles in a pea patch. There were all these grown-up college students, and here we were, 2 puny 13-year-old girls. Phoebe said, I wish I would have worn something else. She picked the lint off her sweater. I explained to the man at the desk that I was looking for my cousin, Mike Bickle. The young man smiled a wide, white smile at me. He checked the roster and said, You're in the right place, room 203. You can go on up. Phoebe nearly choked. You mean we can go right up to his room? Sure, the young man said. Through there. He gestured. We walked through the swinging doors. Phoebe said, Really? I'm having a heart attack. I know it. I can't do this. Let's get out of here. At the end of the hall, we slipped out the exit. What if we knocked on his door and opened it, and he pulled us inside and slit our throats? Okay. What an imagination. Like, he's just going to kill you in his dorm? Probably not. Okay, take a chill pill. Students were milling around on the lawn. I looked for an empty bench. Snap. I just love this. Students were milling around on the lawn. I looked for an empty bench on which we might sit. On the far side of the lawn, I saw the backs of 2 people, a young man and an older woman. They were holding hands. She turned to him and kissed his cheek. Phoebe? On the bench was Phoebe's mother, and she was kissing the lunatic. Snap. Like, OMG. But she kissed him on the cheek. That's the thing to remember. But anyways, he's young. She's older. She's a mom. Like, what the heck? We're going to read one more chapter today because I love you guys, and I think that we should read one more chapter. 37, The Kiss. Oh, snap. Aren't you guys like... Is the Phoebe's mom just kissed the lunatic on the cheek? They're sitting on a bench together. Okay, he's not underage. If you're in college, you're over 18, Mackenzie. He's not underage, okay? All right. Phoebe was stunned and angry, but she was braver than I was. She could watch, but I could not. I assumed that Phoebe would follow me, but I didn't look back. Down the street I tore, trying to remember where the bus stop was. It wasn't until I saw the hospital that I realized I must have missed the bus stop. I ducked inside and was surprised that Phoebe was not behind me. What I did next was an impulse, a hunch. I asked the hospital receptionist if I could see Mrs. Finney. She flipped through the roster. Are you a family member? She said. No, I'm afraid you can't go up then, she said. Mrs. Finney is on the psychiatric ward, family only. I was looking for her son. He came here to visit. Maybe they went outside. You can look out back. So Sal saw this and she just rolled out, left her friend. She just got to go, okay? Like, she can't handle the situation, so she just left. Like, okay, if you're ever in a strange place, don't leave your friend, okay? I'm just saying. But anyway, she left. She passed the bus stop on accident, and then she ended up at the hospital. So now she's like, okay, well, maybe I can find Ben. And she just had a hunch. Yeah, see, Evan, might have been a friendly kiss. See, you're thinking. And she's like, okay, Ben doesn't have a mom or doesn't live with his mom. So she said Mrs. Finney, which would be Ben's last name. And she's on the psychiatric ward. And if you don't know what a psychiatric ward is, that's like where you have like a mental illness, like schizophrenia or something like that. It's a mental illness, and it's because like you're not safe to take care of yourself or other people. Like you might harm yourself or other people. So you're there. Isabella Hanlon, can you please stop doing your hair in this video? Because that's all I'm looking at, girlfriend. So the psychiatric ward is where you have to get medicated or you need help because you can't take care of yourself. So anyways, Ben's visiting his mom who's on the psychiatric ward, but Sal can't go see because it's family only. So the receptionist said, like, hey, maybe they went out back. Behind the hospital was a wide sloping lawn bordered by flower gardens. Scattered across the lawn were benches and chairs, most of them occupied with patients and their visitors. It was a scene much like one I had just left at the university, except no one was studying and some of the people were in dressing gowns. Ben was sitting cross-legged on the ground in front of a woman in a pink robe. She fidgeted with the sash. Ben saw me and stood up as I crossed the lawn. This is my mother, he said. I said hello, but she didn't look at me. Instead, she stood and drifted off across the lawn as if we were not there. Ben and I followed. She reminded me so much of my mother after she returned from the hospital. My mother would stop right in the middle of doing something inside the house and walk out the door. Halfway up the hill, she would sit down to catch her breath. She picked up grass, got up again, and went a little farther. Sometimes my mother went into the barn and filled a pail of chicken feed, but before she reached the chicken coop, she would set the pail down and move into another direction. When she could walk farther, my mother rambled over the fields, meadows, and weaving snake patterns, as if she could not make up her mind which way to turn. We followed Ben's mom back and forth across the lawn, but she never seemed to notice our presence. At last I said I had to go, and that's when it happened. For one moment, we both had the same agenda. I looked at him, and he looked at me. Both our heads moved forward. It must have been in slow motion because I had a split second there that reminded me of Mr. Berkwade's drawing of the two heads facing each other with the vase in between. I wondered, just for an instant, if a vase could fit between us. If there had been a vase, we would have smashed it because our heads moved completely together and our lips landed in the right place, which was on the other person's lips. It was the real kiss. It did not taste like chicken. And then our heads moved slowly backwards, and we stared across the lawn. And I felt like newly born horse who knows nothing but feels everything. Ben touched his lips. Did it taste a little like blackberries to you? He said. All right, we are going to stop there today. They finally kissed. We have spotted Phoebe's mom. We don't know where Phoebe is. What the heck is happening? All right, with the rest, don't leave. With the rest of time today, you need to work, with the rest of this time till 9:40, you need to work on the read works. at 11:15 when we have reading RTI again, you are finishing that ReadWorks, the final ReadWorks, okay? So we're not going to have a second live today. You're just going to do the ReadWorks. After you finish your ReadWorks, you're free to do AR, missing assignments, whatever else you need to work on, as long as you're being productive. Cool math, not productive. I'll see you guys at actual reading class. But regardless, do something productive after you finish your ReadWorks. Try to get your ReadWorks done, okay? You don't want it hanging over you this weekend. Bye. Isn't it so good? I love this book. See you later, guys.
No, take me back. I want to go back in. Bye.
Bye.